Welcome back to Missing. I am Tim, here today with Lance. Lance, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Tim. Cannot have much more respect for our guest that we have on today. Second we met this gentleman, we were both floored by how he presented himself, how he carried himself in the face of the tragedy that he's currently going through with his missing son. The reason why we have him on today is to recap where that story's at with his son, but also he is running for political office. And while we don't live in the area that he is representing, we want to make sure that we spread the word. He brings up a lot of good points, and I honestly can't think of somebody better suited to transition from where he was before his son disappeared, his military life, his son disappears, to his current run for Congress. I think it's an unbelievable story, and if you are in his district, vote early, vote often. Just kidding. Vote early, not often. That's
Yes, not the year to make those kinds of jokes, Lance. But yes, so today we're speaking with David Robinson, and this is definitely the second or third time, or maybe fourth time we've spoken with him on this show. We've met him in person at CrimeCon at least twice, recorded with him there as well. And David is a very strong advocate for the disappearance of his son, Daniel Robinson, who was 24 years old when he went missing in Buckeye, Arizona on June 23rd, 2021. And David has led countless searches for his son in the desert in Arizona, and you gotta check out his social pages to see some of the photos and video. It is quite impressive to see David leading a whole search team, and he's so determined. And he mentions in this interview again that they recovered human remains in their searches, not Daniel, but other families, loved ones. So this is a guy who takes his job very seriously, and the update in his son's disappearance is that he's running for Congress to help missing people all over the country, and we ask him all about it in this conversation.
And for those who know David and his mission, they know that he's very proactive and he's very inclusive as far as being boots on the ground wherever you can be, where you can print up petitions from your own home and distribute them as you see fit. You can get information on that and other ways to contribute to finding Daniel Robinson by going to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. And then if you want to get more information on David Robinson's bid for Congress, you can go to, easy enough, davidrobinsonforcongress.com. And you can see what his platform is all about.
Great, yeah, and he is running in District 2 in South Carolina. So yeah, quite a ways from Massachusetts, but definitely is speaking the right words if I were a voter. All right, so make sure to follow David's journey on social media, and also follow us on social media at MissingCSM. And also, we'll be back at the end of this interview for our final thoughts.
And we're going to break real quick for commercial, and we will be back with David Robinson.
Welcome back to the podcast, David Robinson. David, how are you today?
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I'm doing okay. How about yourself? Doing well.
It's always great to see you. It's great to have you on. Unfortunately, we tend to have you on because of this tragic event that's happened in your life. We are mixing our conversation up a little bit today because you have some new news about yourself personally. But for those who don't know you, can you give yourself an introduction and explain to people why you are here today and what we're going to be talking about?
Yes. Again, thank you so much for having me on. Yes, I'm David Robinson. I'm the father of geologist Daniel Robinson. Many know my son, geologist. Our family itself, we're from Columbia, South Carolina, natives of Columbia, South Carolina. My son is the reason why I'm here today. A geologist that, like I said, come from South Carolina, but also graduated from the College of Charleston, South Carolina. We graduated with honors. Very, very bright student. You don't see too many black geologists, but he decided to run into geology, something he fell in love with. Went out to Arizona to do that job, to start his life, his career. And, unfortunately, he went missing on June the 23rd of 2021. So that's why I'm here to make sure that I'm continuing to fight for my son, to advocate for him, to be his voice, and try to do everything I can to find him and bring the resolution for my family.
Absolutely, yeah. And the searches that you have helped to organize for your son have been extremely impressive. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your searching, and have you done any recently? Do you have any coming up?
Well, yeah, the searches we had, without the help of law enforcement, we was actually able to conduct 49 weeks of desert searches out there, covering 35,000 acre land. Was able to recover human remains, bringing closure for other families. Giving them answers they've been looking for many years. But yeah, currently the searches are on pause. There haven't been any recent searches for a lot of reasons. Funding is one of the biggest reasons. The other reasons is, my efforts to, my investigation that went a little further, my advocacy to try to fight with law enforcement to do the basic forensics, and the passion that I have grown to fight for other missing Americans that caused me to, you see right here behind me, to run for U.S. Congress to bring some help for all the missing cases, including my son. So as it stands right now, we don't have any searches scheduled. But my plans is after the November election is to revisit that.
Excellent. And let's talk a little bit more about your campaign for Congress. When did you make that decision? I know you said that you have used your son's disappearance as a motivator to help other families. When did that become like an actionable thing for you? And this was the thing that you were going to embark upon in order to make change.
That's right. That's right. One thing what actually got me to that point is, the love and that I've seen. I call everybody that's out there that have been helping, whether they're in the desert, there's out there in the city, searches to passing out the thousands of flyers to support. I call everybody my extended family, and when you start hanging around your extended family, we talk, we have conversations, and one of the things that I have learned is that we have many Americans. Well, I just say Americans. A whole bunch of Americans come from different places, and we all came together look for one person, my son. And we talk, and a lot of those people had missing loved ones of their own, and they was out there helping me. And so when you start learning that, you start opening your eyes and seeing that the reality of the situation. There's over 600,000 Americans that go missing every year. 3,000 of which happen every day in this country. As we speak right now, we have many Americans going missing, and a little over 2,000 of them are children. So this is a crisis that we just don't talk about. I was fortunate to in my advocacy for my son, fighting with law enforcement and also trying to get them to do things. I was able to work with the senators in Arizona. I learned a lot about legislations. I learned a lot about the telecommunication companies, and I also learned the reasons why many Americans are still missing, why families have their hands locked, and why law enforcement can't do but so much in certain situations. And I found solutions to that. I found solutions that try to push those things. I've been unsuccessful with the senators in Arizona. So I decided to, well, like I told the telecommunication companies, that I will be coming through the back door. The back door meaning that I'm going to run for Congress. And sometimes you have to make those changes yourself. And so I decided to do so that no family had to go through the same thing my family had been going through for 3 years now.
It's a very specific example you used with the telecommunications. Can you give us a little bit more background or information on what specifically you are talking about? What is the roadblock there?
Yeah, just simple things. When Daniel first went missing, of course, family, we do our due diligence. We know it's 2020, 2021 at the time. We have technologies out there that everybody asks for. Simple things like cell phone pings. That's very crucial to locating a person. We had the Uconnect system in Daniel's vehicle. That is also a tool in 2021. that can help get answers as well as if you go to any traffic light, you see these cameras sitting on the corners. It's not just for traffic. It's not just for law enforcement to catch that bank robber and find out where he at, but it also should be utilized for families when it comes to finding their loved ones. We can backtrack things, and also with the world of Ring cameras and things like that. So we have all the avenues there. It's kind of unfortunate, like with the telecommunication company, just be specific with them, that law enforcement actually have their hands tied when it comes to getting information that the family needs. Hey, the family reported that this person missing. They come out to law enforcement. They say, hey, we need these cell phone pings. Law enforcement would say, well, if we don't deem this a criminal case, we cannot do so, because the telecommunication companies would say you need a warrant. A judge wouldn't give you a warrant unless they deem it a criminal case, and they have to review that. So one of the things that I have found is, in my son's situation, for instance, use that as an example, is that when Dave's phone was owned by his sister. His sister, that's her cell phone. She pays, that's her account. He pays the bill, of course. He using her phone line. But that's her data, and we as Americans, we often hear about how companies utilize our data for their purposes, for advertisements, to you name it. But when it comes to ordinary citizens like families who need that exact data that they pay for every month, because when you pay your bill, get it, that's your data. You pay for that. It don't belongs to the company. It belongs to that individual. You pay that monthly subscription. That is your data, so it should be given to you when you need it. But she had a roadblock there because law enforcement couldn't get it. They put their foot down to say, "Hey, we're not going to give it to her as well." Because of their privacy policies, and some of these privacy policies that we went through it makes no sense, but it's some things that they put there to just look out for themselves. They give me crazy scenarios, things like, "Hey, we can't give it to you because we do." Let's say a husband, some wild, so their husband want to kill their wife. I hate to say this, I'm hoping it's okay to say this here, but do something to their wife, and they say, "Hey, we need this data." We give it to them, and they go locate the person and do what they do. But there are solutions to that, and my solutions is all about law enforcement. Get it? This is a missing person case. We don't go out straight to AT&T, for instance, and say, "Hey, I need this data." We go straight to law enforcement and report our person missing. With conjunction of law enforcement, you should be able to go to these telecommunication companies and get that data in real time. You shouldn't have to worry about a judge, is what I'm saying. Those things, especially when that data belongs to you, you should be able to get it, and that validates that concern from. That helps that concern of the telecommunication company. So there's a lot of details, and then I can go through, but it could probably take us all day. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of areas there that things could be done in a way without invading privacies of Americans at the same time.
Very interesting. So how could one congressperson in just one district help this major problem across the country?
Well, as you've seen for 3 years, I'm a loud person. I'm a loud person. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. I believe in working with my counterparts, working with law enforcement, working with other legislators, also working with other senators and also representatives in Congress, reaching across the aisle, talk to others in other states to make sure we pull together to get this legislation done. So that's my goal. Writing this legislation to get it accomplished and get it introduced on the floor and get some votes on it.
In the example that you used, certain companies, and again, the telecommunications is a good example, they just don't want to set a precedent. And you said they use an example of what if a husband wants to do something bad to his wife. I mean, that's so extreme on one end, but you're a father with a missing son, and you can prove that. And even though a crime hasn't been committed on the surface, there should be some exceptions to accessing this. But does that apply to other elements of a parent or loved one searching for their missing person, that some other things aren't done because they don't want to set this blanket precedent?
Yeah, I'm sure of that. One of the things that's concerned about telecommunication companies is liability. They definitely was really concerned about the liability. I mean, that's from T-Mobile, Sprint to you name it. It's talking about. We had this big meeting about it, and it's the liability aspects of it. I get it. I get the liability part. But yes, every case is different. Of course, we already know that every case is different. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying this is a blanket legislation to say, hey, look, you must do X, Y, Z. There are some areas there that is common, common that we say, hey, look, in this situation, for instance, law enforcement. I can use an example, and this might sound extreme too. Law enforcement say, hey, we located this person. And this person said, "Hey, look, I want to be away from my family, join a monastery, become a monk," like Buckeye said to my family. But we can't. The person said to law enforcement, "I don't want them to know where I'm at." Family hands can be tied in that kind of situation because that's the acts of a adult person. That's if another adult person, for instance, I'm going in that example. And so, of course, we have to make sure that that person's right and their privacy is not invaded. So, again, I'm looking at those areas also.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. And can you tell us a little bit about your district in South Carolina? What are the people like?
Well, we Southerners. We're the person that when you're walking down the street and we pass by each other, we're gonna say something, hello to each other. So that's natural. Open the doors. Things like that. We learn from childhood. Of course, the demographics is changing. We have Northerners and Westerners moving into this love South Carolina. So, of course, a lot of that is changing over the years, but we still have that Southern feel. I can say those in my state, anybody know from South Carolina, we're the first state to secede from the Union. And we're also the one of two states that do not have a hate crimes bill, for instance. And we have legislatures who actually vote against those. And excluding the incumbent, the one that I'm running against. But what I can say is, overall, South Carolinians, we're worrying about the economy. Of course, just even mentioning about missing American cases here in South Carolina, it's over 200 people missing already this year. That number is expected to decline. And so we do have concerns about those areas as well. Like I say, the economy plus, our educational system here is lacking. So it's a lot of things, areas that I'm working on as well. Just being a person in my district all my life, I know those concerns. I know those marginalized communities. I know what it's like to be left behind. So my goal is to not only fight for missing Americans, but also fight for the Americans here in our state. Those who are, like I said, these communities are being left behind by our representatives. We're not all represented equally, and we should have that.
I want to circle back on that hate crime thing. You said that South Carolina is one of two states that doesn't have a hate crime law like in place. What are some of the reasons why it gets shut down when a vote comes up for it?
Yeah, that's something that's questionable to me. I'd say, and I don't want to make it a political thing when I say this. I know this podcast, but I want to say we had to ask the Republicans, and the reason why I say that is because since the '90s, the Democrats haven't had power in the state. We have a supermajority of Republicans running the state ever since the '90s. So anything that happens in the state always happens because of those choices. Like I said, I'm using the incumbent, Joe Wilson is his name. He's the incumbent, been in office for 23 years. And the representation, the majority of the people here in the state want a hate crime bill. But every time it comes up in Congress, he's voting against it. There's also the state legislatures here votes against it. So the reasoning, you definitely have to ask the Republicans that.
Now, why did you choose the political affiliation that you did?
Well, I've been, to be honest, I've been born and raised a Democrat. I've been a Democrat before I was born, as you can say, my mother's womb. But the real reasons why, as an adult, is because of the things that Democrats align with. I can look at fighting for the middle and working class, for instance. I'm using the example. I've been a single parent myself, Daniel, and his siblings. I know how it is to work in this economy here, especially in the state here, being a single parent, and anytime you're thinking that the trickle down economy is actually going to work for a person like me, you're sadly mistaken, because we have been down that road many times before, and I have yet to see anything that happened to where those at the top will actually look out for those at the bottom. We also know that with the investment of working with the middle class, and the work, and also our entrepreneurs, I'm putting that into that working class along with our middle class, is that when we invest there, that speeds up the economy, because get it, we receive investments. And think about the stimulus money that came into the economy. The reason why they was putting that stimulus there, because they know that those who are in the working class and the middle class are needing that money now, and they're going to put it back out into the economy, so that speeds the economy up. But if you're at the top, you're investing, the money moves slow, and that slows the economy down. So I look at those investments also from me, again, with the supermajority in the state here, being a Democrat. I know that we're fighting for equality when it comes to schools. When I went to school here in South Carolina, I'm doing very well. I'm just like Daniel, very brilliant person. In the ninth grade with the seniors, they tried to put me in college early, before I even got to high school. But the thing is, I was behind. I didn't realize that just by going to another district in my another school in my district for a time. They say, you're doing very well, but in this school you're not, because the curriculum, the books that you're utilizing is last year's, for instance. So make a long story with that. I found that a lot of things that I align with, personally, who I am as a person, aligns with the Democratic values. I don't say I agree with every total thing, but I can say that as a lot of it, I do. Yes.
And how do you plan to work with your fellow Republicans as you're trying to implement change? Because you can't, as we've seen, you can't just be like, no, I'm not going to do this, or stubborn. Like, there has to be some give and take and some negotiation. How do you plan to accomplish that?
Yeah, because you already know that this whole country, we're oh man, everywhere when it comes to Democrats. It kind of make how I feel about it, and I hope this don't bother me later on. But it's almost like the Bloods and the Crips. Oh, you wear your red and I wear my blue. We don't talk to each other, and so and it shouldn't be that way. Being a military guy, being out in this country fighting for our country, put myself on the front line of this country. I remember the first morning I woke up in Afghanistan. I realized I was joining something bigger than myself, and it wasn't I wasn't over there risking my life for a Democrat. You know, I wasn't over there risking my life for a Republican or anybody else. I was over there for America. For our whole entire country, our democracy, our Constitution, what I raised my right hand for. One thing I can say, you do have to identify with a party, because we have a really two-party system, but we have independents as well. So I do identify as a Democrat, but I do know that in my district, and this is from running. I have never ran political office before, but I'm a constituent just like everybody else in my state. When I ran for office, especially the primaries, I was out there talking to people. And when I was out there talking to people, I learned a lot. Whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or independents, they all had the same sentiment. Especially not Democrats. They find me as a Democrat, but I'm talking about the independents and the conservatives, they like to call themselves. And when you go talk to people, they'll tell you, look, sometimes I may probably vote Democrat this time, but Democrats don't even come talk to us. And that was the sentiment that I heard, and it's very hurtful. And I take it to heart, because when I talk to people all the time, you best believe we all want a raise of the minimum wage. That's $725 an hour. You cannot raise a family. You have to work about 2 or 3 jobs just to take care of your bills under that kind of wage. So we have certain things in common, but we just have to actually listen to each other. First part of that is actually listening to each other. And when you listen to each other, you'll find that, hey, you might be saying the same as that thing, but you're just saying it in a different way. And that's what I've been finding. And that's the approach that I have when it comes to everyone, to make sure we accomplish these goals that we have in common. We all want to secure a border, for instance, and so we want to be able to make sure that we're actually hearing each other. We're saying the same thing. We're just speaking a different language. We got to make sure we be the person that actually tie those things together. And that's what I plan to do.
Can you tell us how your military background will help you as a congressperson?
Yes, definitely. Of course, again, just loving this country, and I gave up a business. I was an entrepreneur, had 2 trucks, and I was taking care of my family, and decided to leave and close everything down, and help out our military out. so I just learned, let's say, what helps me is with that, like I said, is service first, service to the people, service to our country. It's not about you. So that mindset for me is that, approaching Congress, I know I'm not representing the Democrats. I'm representing everybody in my district. And it's not. I might have a title, yeah, you're a Democrat, but I'm representing everybody in my district, whether you voted for me or not. And so that helps me in Congress. It helps me in Congress because it gives me the mindset to say, hey, look, I was in Arizona, for instance. Everybody's out there. Nobody care what political ideologies you have, what kind of religion you have, what your sexual orientation is. Nobody care. We all out there working together. You best believe it. You would have been had those cameras out there in that desert. You can see Americans coming together. But what I'm saying is, it'll help me totally. The military aspect of us as brothers and sisters out there, putting ourselves in harm's way. That mindset is to be able to work with everybody that you can to get the job accomplished. And sometimes it's give and take because we have to actually listen. You have to actually listen, and then you can find those common grounds.
I'm curious if the incumbent who you're running against was also in the military. Was he?
Yes, he's also a military person. So yes, I really thank him for his service.
See, that's that. Thank you for your service, even though you're running against him. That's you have to do that, and that's just
that's
like
right.
that communication that I think
That's
is
right.
getting
Yes, sir.
lost in politics, where it's that really simple but effective show of gratitude and respect. So
That's right.
I think that's an important thing to note as you go into your campaign. So what are some of the elements of your campaign? Are you going door to door? Are you doing fundraising events? How can people contribute to your campaign?
Well, South Carolina's a different ball game when it came. And I learned this quick, and I smiled about it because it's true. Um, you know, uh, I remember, and I have to throw it in this way. Just fighting for Daniel out there in that desert. I have uh, reached out to people to help me. Everybody know I started off with GoFundMe. Hey, look, my first thing was, hey, I use my military term, help me keep my boots on the ground so I can fight for my son. And people did that. They donated. Then when I started my desert searches out there, help me with this, and make a long story short, people was pouring in and being able to do so because they are really fighting for something they believe in too. And that's to find this scientists, this black scientists out there who's lost out there in that desert. And so I saw that. I saw that. And so when I came to approach to run for Congress, is a different kind of thing. It's a political thing. So people had to actually want to attach themselves to that. So I can't say it was very hard, especially the primaries. I'm really surprised that we won by 84% of all the votes in the primary, and it was only two of us running a full campaign. So I can't tell you, it was rough. It was rough. But was able to get out there, like you said, knocking on doors, reaching out to ordinary citizens. Like I said, I don't care what your political ideology is, to talk to everybody and to say, hey, look, I'm running for change. We need change in our district, and and so on, so on. So yes, it was challenging, but was able to get it done.
Okay, cool. You just said change. And I'm sure there are some people in your district, there's so many people in this country who are so opposed to change because it's been the same way for them for so long and it's worked for them for so long. How do you open that communication with folks who have been the same for so long and don't see a reason to change?
Well, you got to get again. You got to communicate with people. We already know. Yes, about the military. We all know communication is key for anything. If we didn't have communication over there, we'd be shooting each other and things like that. Friendly fire. So we definitely have to communicate with people and give them a reason why they can see what's really going on. Sometimes we get so complacent we don't actually see what we're actually going through or see what could be better. And so you can just point those things out to people by messaging, that you have when it comes to when you talk to people. It definitely have to be messaging and let them know, hey, look, these things can change. We don't have to be complacent. We don't have to get used to certain things. We don't have to vote for a person because of their name. Because I of course I'm a person that actually believe in term limits, so that's one thing for sure. But just vote your values and everything else. So it's a lot of things. It's all about messaging for me.
You've mentioned a few here, but what are the policies that you feel most passionate about?
Well, defending democracy is number one. I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran, and I see a lot of things right now that's threatening our constitution, our democracy, our country as a whole. And under the umbrella, we have protecting women's reproductive liberties, their freedoms, So I have those as well, because I know that women's reproductive right is American rights. That's me. I fight for American rights. Also, quality education, for me is very crucial. The story I just told you, the disparities that I see in the educational system. The government put out 119 billion dollars of our tax money towards education, and then like in my district alone, $800 million this year towards education, but it's not utilized in the proper place. We have crumbling school infrastructure. We have teachers with overcrowded classrooms. They're not getting paid. We have the Paid Teachers Act, but they're not actually getting that federal dollars coming into our state, for instance, for that purpose. Also, the mental health we talk about all the time about how social media is really messing our children up mentally, and the teachers have to deal with that in the schools. But yet we're not providing guidance counseling. So the teachers have to be a guidance counselor and teach at the same time. We don't need that. Also, providing the drug industry is making a lot of money. They're making record profits, even during COVID. We all know where everybody's stuck in the house. So it's a lot of areas that I'm working on, the infrastructure. All those things matter to me, and I'm really fighting for those two. Is along with, again, missing American cases. That's one of my tops as well.
I'm curious where this money has gone. You said that you're allocated $800 million. Where does that go then? If it's not going to infrastructure, paying teachers, confused.
Right, and that's when I talk to Americans here in the state. A lot of rural areas are suffering the most. A lot of marginalized communities suffering the most. That money is going to a lot of it going to STEM programs that actually benefiting the rich, private schools and things like that. And it's not going to the right place. So they're making these programs. They're saying, "Hey, benefit students," but the ones that actually capitalizing on it is other schools that's not in the marginalized community. The ones that's not in the rural community. So we have to restructure that. So what I plan to do as a congressman representing my district is to put stipulations there where they have to account for that money, where the money is going, how it is being utilized. It need to be utilized for the purpose it was given. And so we don't have that kind of person in leadership right now that would do that. It's a party leadership. And no, we got to get beyond a party thing. And I'm one of them. I'm a Democrat, a registered Democrat, but we got to get past the party part of things and make sure that people our constituents are receiving what they should be receiving.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. Do you have anything you'd like to say to an undecided voter in South Carolina Congressional District 2?
Yeah, for our constituents here in South Carolina, I'm a constituent. I'm a person who didn't know who Joe Wilson is. That's a sad story. Joe Wilson didn't come into our communities. Only way I know Joe Wilson, and this is crazy, is I know that people was talking for years about this guy who stood at the State of Union address and called President Obama a liar, right? And I still didn't know who he was until I ran for office. When I ran for office, they say, that's the guy that stood up and said, and I said, small world. Wow. This is the guy I'm running up against. And so what I'm saying is he never came into our communities, never hear about our concerns and things that's happening in our communities. Just running this campaign alone. We've been invited to the NAACP forums where they had all the candidates there to talk about why they're running, to hear the constituents in our districts, in our district that actually have concerns, what the concerns are and how you would address those. He didn't bother by showing up twice since in this election, because the way we take it is, I don't need those voters. I don't need these people. But again, we're only as strong as the weakest link, and if we got a weak link, and that means the marginalized community, our rural areas, and those people who are concerns, no matter they vote for you or not, we're all in this together. Our whole economy relies on everybody doing well. So we cannot continue to have this for 23 years. I get it. It goes to the complacency, what you were talking about before. Hey, this one conservative gentleman I talked to came to a podcast of mine, and we talked, and he's voted for me now. He said he didn't know the guy was running unopposed. He always vote for Joe Wilson. But what he's saying is, you don't have to do the same thing, because he said nobody runs against him, so he just automatically vote for him every year. you have a second option. You have a second option now. You have a person who's actually going to actually listen to your concerns. I don't care if it's conservative, independent, or whatever. We all in it together. If you guys already know, and I'm not, I don't know if it's okay for me to speak about my podcast, but I have a podcast every Friday. I set it up during the primaries. I set up a podcast every Friday, 8:30, for constituents to be able to talk to me direct. Because sometimes people talk to me when I was out in the campaign trail, say, I can't even get in contact with the guy. I've called the office and they're not, I can't talk to him, but, of course, talk to office staff. No, you can have direct conversations with me. This is something that I plan to do on well past elections. There's some part of who I am as a person. So what I'm saying is, if anybody is listening and they really want to change in this district and have somebody who's representing everyone, I am that person. I don't represent one president. I don't represent a party. I am a Democrat. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Democrat, so I can't denounce that. But what I can say, I represent everybody in my state, and that's what it means to me. If everybody want to do some kind of change and have representation, proper representation that we all deserve.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize a couple of points that you made and a fact here. One of them is that you said that you supported term limits, and the other thing is Joe Wilson has been there since 2001. So 23 years,
Right.
going on 24 years.
23 years.
What's the importance, and I think I know your answer, what's the importance of term limits?
Well, for me, and this I smile when I say this outside constituent again. I noticed that again, people vote because of name recognition, for instance. Politicians, I can say we can all come in with great ideas, come in with great intentions, but if you stay in that office too long, it becomes your office. It becomes you're the face of this office, this seat, and also you build up a dynasty for yourself. You raise your children, you send them through college, and so now it becomes not about the people anymore. It's about keeping the seat. It's not about coming up with new ideas to help the constituents. It's all about keeping the seat and keeping this power and things like that. So we start seeing things where people would I've seen it in Joe Wilson, in my opinion. You'll start seeing that he's representing a party or one person president, and not the people, everybody who's don't support that president or don't support certain policies. You're not even coming out to even speak to that person. So what happens is you become selfish, is what I like to say, and you're not actually working for the people anymore, but you're working for your self-interest. And I think term limits will help with that. Help term limits would give a person enough time to be able to put those things in place that they had intentions to do, like I have in there, to defend our democracy, protect women's reproductive liberties, to provide quality education in every zip code, lowering our healthcare and prescription costs, and safeguard our infrastructure. Those are the things that I'm going to be fighting for missing Americans. And I could be able to do that really quick. And it's going to take 23 years to do this stuff. It's going to happen really quickly, get the job done. Sometimes it takes more than one lessons one time in office. I get that part. You can't do it the first year you're a freshman person and coming to Congress. You probably get the lower level things. But there had to be a time where they say, hey, the time is up, and it shouldn't be 6 years, for instance, for a senator to be able to be in office that long. It shouldn't be a lifetime of judges sitting there on the Supreme Court, for instance. So we do need some changes of term limits and how long you can actually do so. Now, it's gonna sound kind of crazy when I say this about congressional run for the House seat. I don't think 2 years enough to go back for now. I think it should be 4 years, and then that's it. Give you 4 years to be able to get these things done.
Well, that sounds fair to me, and really, you've been great to speak with over the years, David. So you would absolutely have my vote if I was in District 2 of
Yes,
South
sir.
Carolina. But where can we get your podcast?
Yeah, well, everything is the David Robinson II for Congress. That's the Facebook, the Instagram, YouTube. I use a platform that streams on all of those, and also X. But X is a little different. I couldn't put David Robinson II for Congress, so it's Vote David 2024. And so I use those platforms to, get the message out. So it's every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's what 5:30 p.m. if you're out on the West Coast out there. But yeah, definitely for that. And also you can find davidrobinsonforcongress.com is the website to go to be able to support and also to find out again those information there every week.
Great. And if anybody wanted to contribute to your campaign, they would go to the davidrobinsonforcongress.com. If anyone had information on Daniel or they wanted to see any updates, where would they go for that?
Yes, and with Daniel, definitely the reason why I even got into the run in the first place. Please help find Daniel.com. Everybody can go there to help with the efforts that I'm still currently, just because I'm running for Congress, it do take a lot of my time, but my efforts are still there to fight my son. And the way people can help is to visit pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. There's the mail-in protest. I've been having that for 2 years now. That's helping everybody to get engaged to actually send these. And that's a form of donation because you're printing out and sending these picket signs out to law enforcement to let them know, hey, we didn't forget about Daniel. That keep Daniel's case from being a cold case. Keep law enforcement active. Also, flyer distribution is still out there. We still need that information about Daniel out there to reach that person that may know something, to reach Daniel himself. If God, I hope so. He's out there and you just don't know who he is. Somebody identify a face. In other situations, those flyers are helpful with resources too. So you can actually print them out. That's another form of donation. Or you can ask for them for free without cost. We'll send those flyers out to you to get into your community. So those are the ways you can help while I'm running for Congress. That very much support me while I'm doing this, because it's not just for Daniel, it's for every American too. We have, again, 600,000 Americans going missing in this country, over 3,000 a day, over 2,000 of which are children. We have to come to a resolution to that and find solutions, and I'm here to do that. So again, that will help me out if everybody can join in.
I can't wait to have you back on once you win and we get to introduce you as Congressman David Robinson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm taking that in faith. Yes, sir.
Well, best of luck in the upcoming election. We hope you win.
Yes, sir. Thank you. God bless. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and we're back after the conversation with David Robinson, who is running for Congressional District 2 seat in South Carolina. He is such an impressive guy. I get very, nervous and uncomfortable when he calls me Mr. or Sir. I really don't like it. but yeah, he's also just a great guy to talk to, and honestly very comforting too.
Yeah, and his answers are so thorough. I don't think there's ever been an answer where it's been vague or he eludes the point. And it's interesting to speak about that in the sense of politics now. We've spoken to him about his son, and you can expect him to give as definite answers as possible when he's talking about the disappearance of Daniel. But we know politicians are trained to talk around the point if they're not committed to something, and he doesn't do that. And that's really impressive. But I'm with you on the sir and the addressing in the formal way, you and I. We should definitely be calling him sir. We should definitely be saluting him, but that is not the case. And he treats us with respect, and we try our best to treat him with equal or greater respect.
Yes, we do. We definitely do our best. He's a veteran and definitely a man to be respected. And I do just want to throw out there that he is running for a Democratic seat. And I just want to mention that even if he was running for a Republican seat, we would have had him on this show because that would be the update in his son's case. Okay, so please, no negative reviews about that. This was not about a political interview. This was about an update in his son's case. And honestly, please, if you haven't given us a good review, please give us a good review for this one, because you've got to help us combat the inevitable negative review or two just for having Mr. Robinson on for this cause.
Yeah, and there's no agenda here. There's no political agenda. Like you said, if he was a Republican, if he was an independent, if he was Green Party, like, I don't care. If anyone else had their story told on this show and the update was a run for political office that was going to help other families in relation to disappearances and tragedies, it doesn't matter the political affiliation. It just happens that he's part of the Democratic Party. He did say that his challenger, the incumbent, who's been there for 24 years, I think, also served in the military, and regardless of, and I love that comment that he made, regardless of the political affiliation, he instantly said, and I thank him for his service. Like, that's just the type of respect that this guy puts out there. So getting back to that whole respect thing, if you're tempted to leave a negative review and say that we're leaning one way or another, just take a breath. We're not. Maybe someone's going to come on in the next couple of weeks who's running and they're a Republican. We'll have them on too.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for listening, everybody, here today. Check out Mr. Robinson's site, David Robinson for Congress, and also his site on his searches for his son, pleasehelpfinddaniel.com.